Hello, and welcome back to Time to Cook, where we got bit by a dead bee, alright. So, unlike last time, where I said Grilled was my favorite episode so far, this episode was a bit of a disappointment, coming from the last one. It's not bad, but coming off the last one, it's very disappointing. Let's go into why. So, this episode follows Walt and Jesse just after escaping Tuco, who was just killed by Hank at the end of the last episode with the shootout. And Walt is later found by the police after stripping butt-ass naked in a convenience store. As you do. But for most of this episode, Walt is kept in the hospital, and that's kind of where it happens, because in terms of stuff with Walter and his family, nothing really happens. And throughout when parts with Walter came up in this episode, it was just boring. Don't get me wrong, it's still well acted, of course, but the points with Walt in the hospital in this episode were just kind of boring. So, yeah. Where this episode kind of really shines is the actions between Jesse and Hank. Because in this episode, Hank arrests Jesse and questions him about his involvement with Tuco and why his car was at the scene where Hank shot Tuco. Where Hank, of course, brings up that, one, Tuco already had a bullet in his side, and that, of course, Jesse's car was there at the scene. Of course, Jesse denies having any involvement, saying that his car probably got jacked while he was having a 3-day party. And, well, the DEA believes him for now, but they even bring in, but what really kind of nails Jesse's safety in for this is they bring in Hector Salamanca and ask him questions, saying if Jesse was really at the scene of the crime. And Hector denies Jesse being there, which I think is odd, but I can go with that, and I'm wondering why Hector actually did that. But maybe he really had a reason, because, despite Hector being an old man who suffered a stroke and is condemned to a wheelchair, Hector isn't stupid and very well knows what he's doing. So he probably had a very good reason for why he didn't rat Jesse out. But overall, there's not really much to say with Bit by a Dead Bee. And I'm just going to say it, this episode, like I said, the main issue is that this episode is just boring. And like with other episodes that were slow or had stuff that felt boring, they still meant a lot because, again, at those points you were learning more about your characters and you were overall just, like, there were still fun situations. But with Bit by a Dead Bee, it's just boring, and there's not really much to get it out of the boredom. So, yeah. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna give Bit by a Dead Bee probably a 6 out of 10. It's just a pretty boring episode, where not really much happens aside from Hank getting closer to figuring out the new kingpin on the streets, which of course is Walter. But yeah, this episode, like I said, just disappointed me. But hopefully the next episode doesn't. And of course, like I said, all the episodes, they don't have to be fun or action-packed. Of course, you gotta have your slow moments. But this episode just felt slow and just too boring. And I don't think the show should be like that. But yeah, there you go. I'll see you next time on Time to Cook. Goodbye.